Oh, yes.
Yep, just
Thank
started
you.
it.
I can see it.
Sorry, somehow we've ended up with a waiting room, which I thought I disabled, so I'm just letting people in.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed that, but
Just give people a few more minutes to join here.
I think it's Ring Central sometimes plays tricks. Anyone else is waiting?
Yep, still letting a few people in.
Just maybe keep an eye if somebody joins a little late, just to admit them.
Will do.
Give
Okay,
them a couple of minutes, yeah. Just give them a couple of minutes because we're bang on the time. So if they just get themselves a quick drink or something personal.
Okie dokie. Tyler, you there still?
I'll kick us off here, guys. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Prima Advanced User Forum. Today, Gary, our product lead, will be covering Punchout integration with Prima. I'll be in the chat if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, we'll open the floor for questions at the end. Okay, over to you, Gary.
Okay, welcome everyone to this session. Just watching people join, I can see many of you do have clients and large clients with Punchout on your system. I'm still going to cover everything, and sometimes some parts of it I'm going to repeat cover. A lot of information on here, but most Punchouts can be quite unique in their setup. They might have a slightly different setting in. Just for your information, before I go what we'll cover, we work with 32 different ERPs right now. So, Cooper being one, SAP Ariba, and many that you've probably not heard of. And there's many out there that we've probably not heard of, but we'll work with them and investigate the issue because most of the concepts are the same. So what I'm going to cover today is what Punchout is all about and how it really works. Okay. I have just mentioned about the current platforms. I've got ahead of myself there, but I'll give you some examples more on there. But I'll also cover the functionality that Prima has within Punchouts. And it's worth stressing, I'll probably repeat myself, is that in most cases, we have more functionality than you'll see with any other Punchout provider. Okay, that's how much we've invested in this process with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, as I would always say. So it all works. What's the difference? What does EDI invoicing versus Punchout actually mean? It's not a lot, but I'll cover that off as well. Where do you see your Punchout orders in Prima? I'll cover off the common issues. Now, it always sounds quite negative when I say cover off the common issues. There are issues that come up that are quite straightforward. There are others that are more technical, but there are issues that come up that are very easy to resolve. And I've put on there I'll show you how to reach out to the Prima team on that. And then a quick slide. The last slide is just really what detail we need. Should one of your clients say, I've got an ERP and I want to do a punch out, this is the information we want. It's really a high level document. When we have the call, we cover it off anyway, but it's just so you can get some more detail, and it looks like it's not as complex as it sounds, because when you mention the word punch out, a lot of people do switch off because they think, oh, punch out, what's that? That's a problem. It's not. It's a big tie-in for your customer to your business. You know, that's the important thing. It'll tie into the bigger setup. So here we go. So what is a punch out? A punch out is a method and technology for businesses. Hang on, I'm just going to move something out of the way of my screen. I can see Steve there. For businesses to purchase supplies directly. So really what you're saying is it's a system where your client, your customer, has their system, and they can literally press a button on their system and they connect into your web store automatically without having to log in, because it's all done behind the scenes. It's even a system that if they're a new user for your client, it will automatically set them up if they're trading with you. So it's a process that ties them in from being able to connect, being able to order, being able to control their expenses and do their reporting, and ensure that their users go to the same area to purchase their product and don't shop around. Okay, so the punch out process itself is really a modularized application. Okay, and the reason I say modularized, it can be a very big process or it can be a very small process, and we have broken that down into some key areas. So we always start a punch out process from we'll create credentials for the customer. They'll put it into their ERP. They can then connect to your web store, and they will be able to browse the products that you have let them do. Now that might be a whole portfolio of products, or it might be a contract or a favorites list of products for that user, and that can be set to anyone. Has someone got a question? No? Getting on mute. Thank you. They can then add those products to the cart, and the most important thing of a punch out to remember is when they're browsing on your web store and they're adding to the cart, it's not an order. Okay, it's a requisition. They are making a requisition at this point of items they want to purchase. So when they've added to their cart, that will transfer back to their ERP, SAP or Cooper, whatever one they've got, and at that point that becomes an order, a requisition, sorry, that can be approved to become an order. So they have an approver, they'll probably have budget control, they have reporting. They will then transmit that back to you, either as a PDF order, which you then key in, or even better, they'll send it back electronically. Okay, so it goes into your system and we avoid any manual keying, etc. Okay, and that then becomes the order. So there's lots of what we call handshaking going on at the time. They'll connect to your system, your web store. They'll search for the products they're allowed to purchase. They'll send them back. That will go back electronically to their system, so there's no manual intervention at that point. They then send it back to you either as an email PDF or electronically as an actual order. And then we can move on to the invoicing. So invoicing can actually go back as an invoice, as a PDF, like you could do for a normal customer, or we can have it set up to go back as an EDI invoice. So remember on the first slide, I said what's the difference between EDI invoicing for punch out. That for invoice, that's the big thing, is that the punch out process is the order flow, and then the invoicing goes outside of the punch out as an EDI invoice, and we rely on credentials from their system. Okay, what we offer that a lot of people don't offer is we have control over the invoicing process. So when an invoice goes back, it can go back as an invoice per line as it's delivered. It can go back as an invoice for all orders, all lines on that order to go back, and we have controls in place. When we're setting the process up, we have a whole test environment that's built into the live environment, so we don't insist on your customer having to make too many changes. So we control the test orders coming in. It makes your customer's job much, much easier, and the switch over much, much easier. Okay. We allow them to, customers, when they're buying pens, they probably don't want to report on the fact they bought a red pen, a green pen, and a blue pen. They want to report on the fact they bought a pen. So we allow the additions of commodity codes or material group codes. So it links all the products together, so they can do what reporting they want if they want to. A choice, okay? If they want to have one user connect but under many accounts, yep, we can do that. You won't find that process anywhere else. Okay, that's completely unique to Prima. Okay, so they can log in and they can actually select a different account under the one login. Okay, very, very good. No, other people haven't been able to do that. We allow different custom fields in the cart when they're building that up. Okay, and overall the whole of our process, and I'm going to show you in step by step again in 1 minute, but we have full login on our Punchout, so we know exactly what's happened, when it's happened, is it been successful, has it been unsuccessful. We can see every part of it, and 99% of the time it's successful. There might be the odd issue here and there, but we can see that. We can resend invoices if they haven't processed their invoice correctly. We can resend an invoice directly through the Punchout process. We can create outputs that your client wants. So we have the full mechanism for Punchout for your customer. Okay, but just so you can see the process here, so it's a high level player. You can see you've got the buyer on here who will connect into your web store from their ERP, and say 32, but there's probably 64 or 100. It really doesn't matter to us what ones they are, just on the setup. They will browse, they'll add to the cart. Okay, so they then going into supplier, it'll go back to them, okay, and they will then send. This bit gets in my way all the time. You probably can't see what I'm moving, by the way. The buyer will then change that requisition into the order. So you can see, if you can see my mouse, it's here, and send it back to you as a supplier, okay? And then you'll process that order as a supplier. Oh, I can do that actually, that's it. And you'll then send an invoice back, okay? So that's very, very high level, and that's that particular slide there you probably find on the web as well from other people's usage. What I've done on the next slide, as I said before, I'm going to repeat myself, is what does that actually look like at a high level to you? So here's your customer at the top, the customer's ERP solution. Again, that's the Punchout system that they're using, okay? We will supply them with connection credentials, okay? They will give us credentials back as well for the invoice part, okay? But those credentials are then set and they're unique to your customer, okay? So there'll be a shared secret, for example, and there'll be an identity, okay? And what that then means is that's unique to your customer. When they connect, if the user exists, it will connect under that user, okay? If the user doesn't exist, it will create that user, and it then stops you having to create users ad hoc all the time. It will do it automatically for you, okay? Once they're connected, so here, they can browse and update their carts, okay? And they can transfer it back to their solution here. And that's passed back to their system for their approval and budget control, which is really, really important for them. So you don't use any of the approval and budget control that we have in our web store, or in your web store, sorry. It's all done in this solution. So as remember, and this is the most important thing I think, is that when they're at this stage, it's a requisition. It's not an order, okay? It comes back here. They've approved it. They've gone through their budget control. They've done anything else they want to do with it. It's probably gone for the senior team to process it. They will then send it back to you either as a PDF order, so a format which is coming to your email, which you have to manually key in, and I hear you say, boo, I don't want to do that. That's really driven by your customer's ERP solution, what probably they pay monthly for it. Most people now go down the electronic route, okay? So we always ask these questions at the beginning on the setup. But if it comes in electronically, it will automatically come into your Prima system, your Prima ERP. for you to process. And it might be that you've set that customer up to automatically authorize, but you've got control over that order. Remember, it is now an order, okay? And then when it's processed, you have the choice. You can either have your customer may say, well, I only want the invoices to come back as PDFs. Please carry on that way. Or they say, no, we can do either as a CXML invoice or an EDI invoice. So in an ideal world for you and for you to carry on making other sales elsewhere, it should all be electronic. So connection back comes through as a CXML order and goes back as a CXML invoice, and you'll get lots and lots of orders all processed, and you'll be very, very happy. Okay, so that's again, that's a high level, but I think that this diagram here makes it very clear. If you're discussing with a client, you can actually use this diagram here to discuss it with them. But we're always happy to join a call whenever. So if it's an early call, we'll join it and we'll work on your behalf. Okay, and we'll be you as a dealer, which I know a number of you, I've done that with you before, but we'll help you because punch out is a frightening word to a lot of people. Okay, here's just a couple of companies that are common companies that we work with. The list is endless. Okay, these are some of the common ones. So SAP is SAP Ariba. They do something. So these two companies actually have just recently merged into one. They do iframes and things like that, but we handle all the process, and we can set it up, and we have customers using all of these businesses here. And so we've got 32, and this is just a selection of them. I mentioned when an order comes in, and I think this is quite crucial actually. So an order will come in and you can have it processed automatically. Now, all punch out orders that come into the system are available in your imported orders section, which is here. I've highlighted a nice clear yellow circle, and then you can you press on the green button over here, and it brings up your order source. Select punch out, and it'll bring up all your orders that are coming from a punch out system, okay, that you can see, okay, and you can see that are then processed through. Now, you may have involvement with that where you have to authorize it. You may have involvement where you're actually going and picking it, but you could have it where it's, again, you can set your customer up to be automatically process the order, and then you can also set your customer up to how they have their invoices. So is it an invoice per line that goes out? Is it an invoice on per completed order, etc.? So we cater for that. And we also now cater for tax at line level, okay, which again is a big change, a big benefit to you guys. So we always just do tax at header level, but we actually now send it out at tax at line level. But we always just check that there is a tolerance set up. So when you change tax from a header to a line level, you might be the odd cent out, and we just make sure their system works. But again, we handle that for you with your customer. Okay, so don't think you have to worry about remembering all this information. Okay, what about punch out? Common issues with punch out. One of the most common issues you have with a punch out is, say, Cooper update their system, and that gradually that rolls round to your customer and they update. It might create an issue. It might not. We're there to help you if it does, because we'll probably know about it before, and we may have even told you, be careful, your customer's going to have an upgrade very soon. That's one of the most, when I say most common, it's very rare, but it's one that you should be aware of. I would say the most common question I see on a punch out is the second one in my list here. Okay, contract items, and all that is oh, this line's not appearing on my contract, and it's because people have missed the process of adding the line to the contract in the Prima back office available for your customer. So if you've got a customer that's on a punch out system, an ERP, that they want an extra line on their contract or an extra line on their favorites list, you can put it on and it's on their system instantly. Okay, they'll see it instantly as they connect to the store. Another question that you get rarely is pricing on an order, okay, from a delayed requisition. So if you remember, I said they placed the order, they build they placed the requisition, sorry, they build it. It might then sit in their system for a week. It might sit in there for a month because it's not an order at that point. We make sure currently that when it hits your system, it's taking the pricing at the time it hits your system, because you don't want someone holding on to an order for 2 months, 3 months, and then saying, oh, but when I built my requisition, it had this price on it. That's not how business works. I mean, if it became an issue, we would have a look at that. Okay. And then the next one is missing items on the order. That is where we can set it up that allows missing items. We take all products on the punch out, or we will say, well, you're only going to take products that you can order from the dealer, okay? And if you order anything else, it'll show it as a missing item. So it's just an information process, okay? The last item there is not an issue. It's not a common issue. What I've put that on there for is what you can do is every client can have its own custom look and feel. Okay, so when it's a big client, normally a punch out is quite a big client to yourself, and you probably want them to feel a bit more loved. So you can actually, when they connect into their system, you can actually have a different look and feel to what they do to connect into any other part of the web store. We can have a fully customized connection for that customer. Okay, and that's all built into the web store itself. If you have any issues on Punchout, and remember, these are always with your bigger clients. We always say email punchout@primaedge.com, okay, and that'll come straight through to the technical team to address your issues. And it doesn't matter if it is a missing contract item, because it gets to respond to virtually straight away at that point, or the investigation starts straight away at that point, or we'll set up a call with your customer at that point, okay? So it bypasses the direct call for any other issues you have, and it goes straight to the punch out process. Okay, it's purely dedicated for any punch out tickets that we may have. Okay, and then my last slide here is this is a document this is an extract of the document that we've got as an integration document. It's the high level stuff. So what is your customer's name, your consumer's name? What procurement system do they use? What version is it? It doesn't matter if you don't know the version. It's just nice to have. Is it a catalog load? Yes or no? What's the punch up process? The order placement? Is it going to be a PDF order coming back to you, or an XML order? Again, all this info, I could read through the rest, but all this it's just for information. This isn't the end piece. That's when we have the meeting. So when we integrate with your clients, we'll handle all the calls with you and work on your behalf as though we're one part of your company. We won't say we're Prima Software. We'll work as dealer A or dealer B or dealer C to make sure that we're working on your behalf. And we like you to be on the call for any commercial questions, okay, any pricing issues, because I can't answer those ones, but anything technical, you don't need to be involved. You can just be there and listen and making sure you're happy with your customer. Okay, so as I say, we have 1,500, 1,600 separate punch-out setups at the moment within Prima, which is quite a lot, and working with 32 punch-out providers, but that list can be endless. And I say the most important thing after that is we have a full support utility behind it, full login, so we can get to the bottom of an issue very, very quickly, because we know how important that customer is to yourself, like any other customer, obviously, but they are normally the big ones. Okay. Was there any questions? I've stopped sharing it. Everyone happy? Cool. Oh, here's a question. Oh, no, it's not. It's Maria thanking me. Thank you.
The question is, well
just telling you that I've learned a lot.
But always feel free, if you have a challenge, or if you've got a new client, just drop it into the punch out group. Okay.
Sounds good.